Everything is collapsing. The relationship you thought was solid is crumbling beneath your feet. She's cold, distant, maybe already saying the words you never thought you'd hear. I want a divorce. We need to separate. This isn't working anymore. And you're panicking. Your world is falling apart and you're desperately trying everything you can think of to save it. Talking about your feelings, making promises, reminding her of the good times, appealing to her conscience, thinking about the kids, and every single thing you do, every word you say, every gesture you make, it all makes things worse. You're drowning, and the harder you try to swim, the faster you sink. Listen to me very carefully, because what I'm about to tell you goes against every instinct you have, every piece of advice you've been given, every article you've read about saving relationships. But this is the truth. There is no universal algorithm that works for every situation. People are different, women are different, men are different, family situations are different. But through years of counselling work, through hundreds of cases, I've discovered a pattern that works almost every time when everything else has failed. And it starts with understanding that everything you think you should do is exactly what's destroying your last chance. Stop talking about your feelings. I know. Every psychologist, every therapist, every relationship expert tells you communication is key. Express yourself. Use I feel statements. Share your emotions. They're wrong. Dead wrong. When a woman has reached this point of dissatisfaction, when the air between you is charged with mutual irritation, when every interaction brings discomfort, your feelings are gasoline on a fire. Every I love you irritates her. Every I miss you pushes her away. Every emotional confession confirms what she already believes, that you're weak, needy, desperate. You think you're showing vulnerability, and that's supposed to be good, right? That's what modern relationship advice says. But here's what's really happening. She's already irritated by your very presence. And now you're adding your emotional neediness to the mix. She doesn't want to hear how you feel. She doesn't care about your emotions right now. She's too busy dealing with her own feelings of disgust, disappointment, and the fantasy of freedom she's building in her mind. I had a client who would send his wife these long emotional texts every day. Paragraphs about how much he loved her, how sorry he was, how he couldn't imagine life without her. He thought he was fighting for his marriage. She showed these texts to her lawyer as evidence of harassment. Every word he thought would bring her closer was actually being used to build a case against him. That's how badly you're misreading the situation when you think expressing feelings will help. Don't ask about her feelings either. Stop with the questions. Do you still love me? Are you angry? What are you thinking? How do you feel about us? Every one of these questions is a death sentence for whatever attraction might be left. Why? Because it shows you're operating from fear, from insecurity, from a position of complete powerlessness. You're literally begging for reassurance that she has no intention of giving you. Worse, you're forcing her to articulate feelings that might have remained unformed. You're making her put into words the contempt she feels, and once it's spoken, it becomes real, concrete, undeniable. Stop making promises and agreements. I'll change. I promise things will be different. Let's agree to try for 3 more months. Promise me you won't make any decisions until we've tried counselling. Men think like business partners. We made an agreement, we shake hands, we honour our word. But women in conflict don't operate this way. She'll say, okay, I promise, just to get you to leave her alone, but she has no intention of keeping that promise. And when she breaks it, and you point that out, suddenly you're the controlling abuser who's trying to trap her with words. The promises you make are even worse, because now you're operating from a position of negotiation, trying to bargain your way back into her good graces. I'll do the dishes every night. I'll stop going out with my friends. I'll spend more time with you. You're essentially saying, I'll become whatever you want me to be if you'll just stay. This isn't attractive. This is pathetic. And every promise you make confirms that you have no idea who you are or what you stand for. Don't appeal to her conscience. This is useless. Completely useless. Not because women don't have consciences, but because her psychological defense mechanisms are in full operation. Any attempt to make her feel guilty, to make her see her responsibility in the situation, will be immediately turned back on you. You're trying to manipulate me. You're guilt-tripping me. This is exactly why I want to leave. You always make everything my fault. Her psyche is structured to protect her from feeling guilty. She will find a loophole, an excuse, a a rationalization that makes everything your fault, even situations where she's obviously wrong. I watched a man try to point out to his wife that she'd had an affair, that she was the one who broke their vows. Her response: "You drove me to it. You were emotionally absent. You didn't meet my needs. If you'd been the husband I needed, I never would have looked elsewhere." In her mind, her betrayal became his fault. This is the level of mental gymnastics you're dealing with. Logic doesn't apply, reason doesn't work, appeals to fairness or conscience just give her more ammunition against you. Think about the children. This doesn't work either. You know why? Because women don't think about children the way men do in these situations. Her logic is simple. If I'm unhappy, the children are unhappy. If I leave and become happy, the children will be happy too. She's already rationalized that destroying the family is actually better for the kids, because they won't have to see mommy miserable anymore. There's no cognitive dissonance for her here. In her mind, her happiness and the children's well-being are directly connected. Happy mum equals happy kids, even if that means no dad in the house. Stop bringing up the past. Remember our wedding day? Remember that trip to Paris? Remember when you said you'd love me forever? For you, these are treasured memories, evidence of what you had, what you could have again. For her, this is a closed chapter, a book she's already finished reading and has no interest in opening again. She's already living in the future, a future without you. She's imagining freedom, new possibilities, maybe new men, definitely a new life. When you drag her back to the past, all you do is irritate her. It's like forcing someone to look at photos from a party they didn't enjoy. It doesn't create nostalgia, it creates annoyance. But here's what's even worse. She's already rewritten that past in her mind. That wedding day? She now remembers feeling trapped. That trip to Paris? She was faking happiness. Those promises of eternal love? She was young and didn't know better. Every good memory you share has been recontextualized as evidence of how long she's been unhappy. The past you're trying to invoke doesn't exist in her mind anymore. Never, ever, ever show weakness or try to evoke pity. The crying, the begging, the sad eyes, the constant calls and texts, the "I can't live without you" messages, this is the absolute worst thing you can do. Even if she had a shred of warm feeling left for you, seeing you in this weak, pathetic position will kill it instantly. You become something to pity, not desire. Something to escape from, not return to. The childlike behavior, the tears, the emotional manipulation through weakness, it creates disgust, not compassion. Contempt, not love. Men think that showing pain will activate her nurturing instinct, her feminine compassion. But that only works when she loves you. When she's already emotionally disconnected, your pain is just annoying. It's another burden she has to carry, another reason to leave. Your suffering doesn't make her want to comfort you. It makes her want to get away from you faster. I've seen men literally collapse, have panic attacks, threaten suicide, thinking this display of pain will shock her into caring. It never works. Never. All it does is confirm that she's making the right decision. Look how unstable he is. Look how he can't function without me. This is exactly why I need to leave. Your weakness becomes evidence for her case, not against it. And here's the most important thing. Never take a weak position of asking, persuading, explaining, justifying. Every time you try to explain yourself, you're admitting guilt. Every time you justify your actions, you're accepting blame. Every time you ask for another chance, you're confirming you're not worthy of one. This weak position, this supplicant posture, this begging stance, it's the opposite of attractive. It's repulsive on a primal level. So what do you do instead? Here's where everything flips, where the counterintuitive becomes the solution. First, agree with everything she says. Everything. She says you're selfish? Yes, I recognize that. She says you're an abuser? I understand why you see it that way. She says she wants a divorce? Okay, I understand. No emotion, no drama, no tears, no anger. Just calm acknowledgement. Don't defend, don't explain, don't justify. Just agree. This breaks her pattern completely. She's expecting resistance, defense, justification. She's primed for conflict, ready to list every fault, every failure. Her entire emotional state is prepared for battle. But when you agree, calmly and without emotion, the entire dynamic shifts. It's like she's pushing against a wall that suddenly disappears. She stumbles forward, off balance, confused. I saw this work with a client whose wife came at him with a litany of accusations. "You're emotionally abusive." "Yes, I can see how my behaviour could be seen that way. You never loved me. I understand why you'd feel that way. I want you out of the house." "Okay, I'll make arrangements." She was literally speechless. She'd prepared for war and he wouldn't fight. Within an hour, she was backtracking, confused, trying to understand what was happening. The power of agreement is that it removes all her ammunition. She's loaded for bear, ready to fight, ready to defend her position, ready to list every wrong you've ever committed. But when you agree, there's nothing to fight against. The energy she's built up has nowhere to go. The anger deflates, the certainty wavers. She expected you to give her reasons to leave, and instead you're giving her nothing. Second, do everything contrary to what you've been doing. Everything. This is the most crucial part. Sit down and analyze every single thing you do from morning to night, every routine, every pattern, every behavior she knows and expects. Then reverse it all. If you called her every day, stop calling completely. If you never called, start calling once a day, brief and businesslike. If you texted constantly, radio silence. If you never texted, send one text at the same time each day. If you always made coffee for both of you, stop, make only yours. If you never made coffee, start making elaborate coffee every morning. If you cooked dinner, stop cooking entirely. If you never cooked, become a master chef overnight. If you picked her up from work, stop. If you never picked her up, start showing up every day. If you took the kids to school, stop. If you never took them, become the school-run parent. If you went to bed at 10 p.m, stay up until 2 a.m. If you were a night owl, be in bed by 9 p.m. If you watched TV, read books. If you read books, binge Netflix. If you dressed casually, dress formally. If you dressed up, go completely casual. If you never exercised, join a gym and go every morning. If you were a gym rat, stop completely and take up painting. If you were always home, start going out. If you were always out, become a homebody. But here's the key. You must do this completely, immediately, without gradual transition. One day you're one person, the next day you're completely different. No explanation, no announcement, no discussion, just complete transformation overnight. Every single behavior reversed, immediately, completely. This isn't about self-improvement. This isn't about becoming a better person. This is about short-circuiting her brain's ability to predict and categorize you. For years, maybe decades, she's known exactly who you are, what you'll do, how you'll react. That predictability bred contempt. That certainty killed mystery. That familiarity destroyed attraction. Her brain cannot process this complete inversion. She's prepared for the man she knows, the one she's decided to leave. But suddenly that man is gone, replaced by someone she doesn't recognize, can't predict, can't control. The cognitive dissonance is overwhelming. Her subconscious, which had everything figured out, suddenly has to recalculate everything. Think about what this does to her psychology. She's been building a case against you in her mind, collecting evidence, creating a narrative. He always does this. He never does that. He's predictable and boring. I know exactly what life with him will be like. This narrative justifies her decision to leave. But suddenly none of it applies anymore. The man she was describing doesn't exist. Her entire justification crumbles. She's been building a future without you in her mind. But that future was based on you being predictable, being desperate, falling apart without her. Instead, you're calm, you're different, you're thriving in ways she never expected. The narrative she created, you begging while she walks away victorious, is shattered. Let me give you a real example from my practice. Client's wife announced she wanted divorce after months of fighting. He'd been doing everything wrong, endless talks about feelings, promises to change, reminding her of good times, crying, begging. Following this method, he agreed with her completely. You're right, I haven't been a good husband. Yes, we should separate. No emotion, no pleading. Then he flipped everything. Never exercised. Started running every morning at 5 a.m. Always home by 6 p.m. Started taking evening classes. Always pursued her for sex. Complete disinterest. Never cooked. Became a gourmet chef. Always asked permission. Started making decisions without consulting her. Always available. Suddenly had plans every evening. The transformation was so complete that mutual friends didn't recognize him. But here's the important part. He didn't announce these changes. He He didn't say, "Look, I'm different now." He just did it. No fanfare, no explanation, just complete behavioral reversal. Within a week, she was confused. "What's going on with you?" His response, "Nothing, just living my life." Within 2 weeks, she was curious. "Where do you go every evening?" "Various places." Within a month, she was pursuing him. "Can we talk?" "About what?" Within 6 weeks, she didn't want divorce anymore. Why? Because her brain couldn't process the change. The man she decided to leave didn't exist anymore. This new version was unpredictable, mysterious, independent. The cognitive dissonance was so strong that her certainty about leaving crumbled. She had to reevaluate everything. But here's the crucial point. This only works if you maintain it consistently. The moment you break, the moment you revert to old patterns, the moment you show that the needy, predictable man is still there, it's over. She'll know the change was an act, and her contempt will be even greater than before. This works because women's decisions to leave aren't sudden. They build narratives in their minds for months, years. He'll never change. This is who he is. I know exactly what my life will be if I stay. Your predictability allows them to fast forward through the entire future and conclude it's not what they want. But when you shatter that predictability, the future becomes uncertain again. The absolute conviction that leaving is right gets shaken. The reversal has to be complete, immediate, and maintained without explanation. If she asks why you're different, you don't explain. "I'm just doing what I need to do." If she tests the changes, you maintain them without wavering. If she becomes angry about the changes, you remain calm and continue. The anger is important to understand. She will get angry when you change like this. Why? Because you're not following the script. In her mind, you're supposed to be falling apart, begging, proving that leaving you is the right decision. Instead, you're calm, different, thriving. This makes her question everything. Was I wrong about him? Have I been unfair? Am I making a mistake? The anger is her fighting against these uncomfortable thoughts. You're not doing this to manipulate her back. You're doing this to break the pattern that led to this crisis. The man who desperately needed her validation, who predictably met her every need, who she could read like a book, that man created this situation. That man has to die. Not metaphorically, but actually. He has to be replaced by someone who doesn't need her to be complete. In my practice, 100% of the time when this is done correctly, it achieves results, every single time. The woman who was certain about leaving suddenly becomes uncertain. The woman who was cold becomes curious. The woman who was done becomes conflicted, because the entire foundation of her decision has been pulled out from under her. Let me tell you about the aftermath, what happens when you successfully implement this contrary method. Because success brings its own challenges that you need to be prepared for. When she starts coming back, when she starts showing interest again, she starts pursuing you. This is the most dangerous moment. This is when most men fail. They think, "It worked. She's interested again. Now I can go back to being myself." No, you can't. The moment you show that the old you still exists, the moment you slip back into those predictable patterns, the moment you show neediness or desperation, everything collapses. And this time, it's permanent. She'll never trust any change from you again. I had a client who executed this perfectly. His wife went from wanting divorce to pursuing him in 6 weeks. They had sex for the first time in months. She was affectionate, interested, engaged, and he thought he'd won. He thought the crisis was over, so he relaxed, started calling her again during the day, started asking about her feelings, started being available whenever she wanted. Within 2 weeks, she was back to wanting divorce, but this time with absolute certainty. She told him, "I knew the change wasn't real. I knew you were just manipulating me." There was no coming back from that. The changes you make have to become who you are, not temporarily, not as a strategy, but permanently. The man who needed her approval, he's dead. The man who was predictable, gone. The man who would do anything to keep her, buried, and he can never ever resurface. Some men ask me, "But isn't this manipulation? Isn't this dishonest?" What's dishonest is pretending to be someone you're not to keep someone who doesn't want you. What's manipulation is using emotional blackmail, tears, and guilt to trap someone in a relationship. This method isn't about tricking her back, it's about becoming someone worth being with. It's about breaking the patterns that destroyed attraction in the first place. The truth is, the relationship you had is dead. It died when she checked out emotionally. You can't resurrect it. You can't go back to how things were. The only option is to create something entirely new, with you as an entirely different man. Not different as in fake, but different as in evolved. The crisis forced evolution that should have happened naturally but didn't because you got comfortable, predictable, weak. And here's something nobody talks about. Sometimes, even when this works perfectly, you realize you don't want her back. When you stop needing her, when you become truly independent, when you see clearly without the fog of desperation, sometimes you realize the relationship wasn't worth saving. Sometimes you realize you're better off without her, and that's okay too. The point isn't to win her back at any cost. The point is to become a man who doesn't need any specific woman to be complete. This contrary method works because it attacks the problem at its root, your predictability and neediness. It forces growth, forces change, forces evolution. Whether she comes back or not, you win. Because the man you become through this process is better than the man you were. Stronger, more independent, more mysterious, more attractive. Not just to her, but to any woman. Remember, this isn't a temporary strategy. If you revert to old patterns once she shows interest again, everything collapses worse than before. She'll know it was an act, a manipulation, and her contempt will be absolute. This has to be real change, permanent change, even if it means the end of the relationship. The beautiful paradox is this: only when you're truly willing to lose her will she not want to lose you. Only when you don't need her will she need you. Only when you stop chasing will she start pursuing. Only when you become unpredictable will she become interested again. Your instincts tell you to hold tighter, try harder, feel more, express more, promise more. But every instinct you have is wrong. The answer is to let go, stop trying, feel less, express nothing, promise nothing. Not as punishment or manipulation, but as genuine transformation from a man who needs her to a man who chooses her. And sometimes chooses not to choose her. The man you were created this situation. The man you become will either save it or transcend it. Either outcome is victory. Because the real loss isn't losing her. It's remaining the weak, needy, predictable man who drove her away in the first place. This is your chance for transformation. Use it wisely. The clock is ticking, and every day you delay is a day closer to her decision becoming irreversible. Stop talking, stop feeling, stop promising. Start agreeing, start changing, start becoming. The contrary method isn't just a relationship strategy. It's a life transformation disguised as crisis management. Your relationship is breaking down? Good. Let it. Let the old patterns die. Let the old you disappear. What emerges from those ashes will determine not just whether she stays, but whether you become a man worth staying for. This is how you win back a woman's interest when everything is breaking down. Not by doing more of what doesn't work, but by stopping everything that pushes her away and becoming someone she's never met before. Someone unpredictable. Someone mysterious. Someone who doesn't need her to be complete. The desperate, emotional, predictable man begging for another chance. She's already left him in her mind. The only question is whether you'll continue being him or become someone entirely different. Someone she might actually want to be with. The choice and the change have to happen now. Not gradually, not partially, but completely and immediately. This is your only chance. Use it wisely.